Hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Sorry. My name is Prithvi Chandyok. I am a third year student here at Intuit Lab. I'm pursuing visual communication, which is one of the three courses offered in the undergrad program. We've got visual communication, game art and design, and digital product design. You guys, you're here specifically for the game art course, an insight into it rather. The talk is about game art and game design and its career options, and you'll be discovering, you'll get an insight into what it is like to be a game designer, how to become one, and what opportunities it offers as an industry. To talk about it, we have Akash sir with us, who is a mentor over here at Intuit Lab.
Right.
Akash sir, just a brief introduction about him. He is a skilled professional in the automotive and visual design industry, with a rich background as an industrial designer, a concept artist, and an educator. I can personally vouch for him being an amazing educator, also backed by my peers in the game art and design class. His career spans the automotive and entertainment industries, along with the gaming industry, blending design, fiction, and industrial design to push creative boundaries. As an educator, Akasha has developed courses in futurism and urban ecology, guiding numerous students and mentoring multiple thesis projects. Akasha's collaborations include projects for Mahindra Rise, Karma Labs, and ICAO, and his work has earned awards like the Car Design Award for the Best New Mobility Solution. Welcome, sir. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Prithvi. That was a quite an introduction. All right. So do we have any more joining in, or this is it for now?
I believe this is it for now. I think
All
we'll
right.
start when people will just, keep flowing in.
Can we get the cameras on? It's nice to have a little back and forth right now. Little audio visual cues are good. If I can see you guys, it's better to know that you guys can follow me. Can we get the cameras on, or is everyone too camera shy? All right. So yes, as Priti mentioned that I have a very diverse background. I started off with the automotive design, and yes, when I was doing that, I did masters from Pune. It was DSK, International School of Design. And when we finished, the one thing that was clear to me was that I don't want to design just cars. And that was quite odd for my parents also to know that you spent 5 years learning something and you don't want to do that. So from there, I've developed this mindset that I kind of always keep my options open towards learning. And gaming and game design industry is one of those where that kind of mentality really works out for you. If you are very rigid in terms of whatever you have heard online or whatever you have seen online on somebody's post or somebody's profile, then that's not really going to help you. So first and foremost, this is one of those industries where you're very fluid, where you have to be open-minded, where you will never go on a single track. Like, normally that's what in an Indian household, and that's what parents sort of expect out of you, that you will have a career choice or a career option where you're going linear in a single direction. And you study that, you harness those skills, you work in that, you gain more experience in that. Whereas game design and entertainment as whole is one of those industries where the more diverse your background is, the better it suits you, the better you are able to stand out in the industry, because that is the key difference. Engineering colleges have sort of this like a checklist that if you do tick, tick, tick these five, six things, you're a good engineer. You're able to do these things. Whereas it doesn't work the same way in game design and game art. What you need to do for game design and game art is you need, first of all, individuality, which is your work stands out, and what you are creating, people are able to identify that. And that really comes on if you have a different experience approaching, till the time you get your first job. So I'll just quickly give you guys a very, very brief kind of walk through my profile and what I have done and where I started off. So just give me a second. I'll open up the, yes. All right, so I'm going to share the screen right now. Can everyone see?
Yes, it's visible.
All right. So yes, so my portfolio and my focus lies at the intersection of industrial design and concept art, and that is sort of what sets me apart, and why I have so many different avenues within the entertainment design industry. It's not just game design where I can use my skill set. It's because I work at the intersection of industrial design, which is purely um, designing for production, designing for today, and concept design, which is design fiction, right? And that understanding for me came from my experience. And as you can see, I have had collaborations a lot across industries, not just in product design, also in education, academics, in like I worked with the International Civil Aviation Organization, and I worked with them to publish a graphic novel. So I will show you those projects as well, and that has helped me sort of uh, get to where I am and work more as a generalist rather than a specialist. We'll get to that as well, the difference between generalist and specialist. So I'll quickly take you guys through the kind of work that I started off with. So these are all future of entertainment kind of projects. I won't spend much time on this. This is my uh, kind of learning from automotive design and industrial design that I did. So it's designing solutions for problems, identifying problems and designing for that. These are some confidential projects. I have worked on designing space habitats, learning about the nature and law of growth. I have designed future of autonomous mobility. I'm just skipping through this part because this is not entirely relevant to the conversation that we will be doing today. And yeah, this is where this thesis was where everything changed for me, where because the person under whom I did this project, he is a concept artist in Hollywood, and it's under him that I really understood the full spectrum of what entertainment design industry is, what game design can allow you to do. So there were all of these solutions for future mobility. This has been my most successful project. I got 4 global awards for this. And that's when I decided to make the pivot from automotive to entertainment design industry and further to game design industry. And because I've had a background in proper and masters in designing and automobile designing, uh, there is a different approach that I bring to the game design and entertainment design industry. And as I was saying, it helps you set yourself apart. This is what helps me. My distinct experience allows me to set myself apart in the industry. That when I'm designing vehicles or props or anything like that, my skill set is totally different and way more superior than other concept artists. I've worked on publishing books. I have designed graphic novels and comics. So you'll see throughout all of these projects that I've covered that I've not worked on a single kind of a designing. It's been graphic, experiential, future, designing for today, designing for tomorrow. I have designed race cars. I have designed experiences. This was a project I did for one of my clients who is based in Canada, Charles Bombardier. And we did this Rail Light project, which was about how do we enhance the experience of a tour of the city and designing a car specific for that purpose. So I've worked on experiences. This was one of the projects I did for Mahindra when I was in college, which was coming up with a future design aesthetic for the urban youth. I've designed yachts, I've designed bikes, and this was sort of the skill set which I acquired over these 5 years allowed me to be more, different in the concept art industry. And that's one of the main points which I will be putting more emphasis on. And just I've since then, along with my practice, these are some of the courses that I have created, primary being futurism and urban ecology and experiential futures. And specifically for the game design, the kind of things that I cover at Ecole, I teach the students how to design props, objects, environments, how exactly that thinking when you're designing for a fictional world, what exactly is different than if you're solving a problem for today. So those are the things. World building can be a good term that we can put. So world building is what my forte is and what I kind of help the students with. These were some of the key projects that students have done under me, and it goes from uh, entertainment to completely industrial. This capsule chiller was one of the projects. We actually filed a patent with this student of mine. Uh, and coming to the art part, this is the primary sort of the skill set which I developed and where I have been able to show. So I am proficient in digital sculpting, creating creatures, not just on paper as 2D, but also more experiential, something that you can animate, understanding anatomy. I developed those skill sets. So what you see over here, this is kind of an idea. One of the first projects when I started off in game design to design a monster, a backstory, and creating for that. And then I went on to more complex parts of the anatomies, organic sculpting, which is sort of very difficult to control. And I tried developing that skill set. And each of these skill sets that you will see now, starting off with digital sculpting, digital painting, this is sort of creating, generating ideas. This I will show you guys in detail on my website. So I do these exercises with the students and I teach them how exactly you can create every day in like a 40-45 minute challenge. We come up and we design, starting with a word, an idea, and how we use 3D and 2D softwares to generate multiple ideas. So yeah, I'll cover this up. During the COVID time, where I took another switch was where when the whole NFT thing was starting off. I worked with Karma Labs, which is based in Germany. And with them, over a period of, I think, 6 months or something, I created around 15,000 unique NFTs. And that was a cool project. It was very, very boring and after a point, but yeah. So you can see your skill set will apply once you've learned these things. I hope you're able to see that you can apply yourself into multiple industries. You can work with multiple people in multiple industries. It's not just designing games. That's what you will see from my profile. This was actually because I now have the skill set of digital sculpting, which is a strong part of my digital skills. I was approached by Meher Distilleries, which is based in Mumbai, and they wanted for their brand of whiskey, they made a mascot, and they wanted that mascot to be. It was quite a different design, and they wanted it to be 3D sculpted and printed out. So we worked with this, and this was their. I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah. So this is their whiskey brand and their sort of the whole mascot, which I designed in 3D, sculpted it, and we got it 3D printed from China in resin in a single piece. So this was also another learning for me. From here, I started off my journey into 3D printing and 3D designing as well. So, and in digital arts, I am not limited to just creating characters. It's also stories and key moments. It's vehicles, it's even stories, keyframe arts, which I can show you. Uh, and this was also like a personal series which I was doing. Um, and it's just fun to show everyone, that you don't have to rely on to just one part in game design and entertainment. When you're talking about entertainment, it's so vast. Um, like I've also gone and worked with I've designed for animated films, and I've designed some some ideas for that. And this was part of just one of those personal series where Disney Princesses Gone Bad, me showing an alternate universe, me showing my vision, which was that what if each of these characters or Disney princesses that are always considered pure and pious, they were not so good, they were bad, and what would their best quality would be, and if we flip that, so what if Snow White was a gangster, so what if Jasmine was a rich brat, and how do you show and communicate these simple ideas? What if Moana was sort of a graffiti artist or something like that, vandalizing public property, no disregard for so just showing all of this, and you can see through sketching is where all of this starts for me. I love sketching. Even though we have so many different tools available now in with AI, just translating some of your words into a beautiful image. I think that that can never surpass your abilities when you're working on paper, because that freedom, that skill set develops over here. And most of you might be influenced by that, but trust me, if you can sketch, if you like sketching, if you just love creating something, putting on paper, game design is the best industry to be in. And yeah, quickly, I think there were some examples which I've not yet added to this, but to my website. Um, yes. So yeah, this is my website. And there are three facets to my personality. Now, as an artist, these are kind of the things that I can cover up. I can do keyframe arts, environments, vehicles, props, world building, game design. I can fulfill 3D modeling and sculpting requirements, conceptual sketch work, 2D digital artworks, production design for movies, animated films, even live action films, graphic novels if I need something to get printed. So yeah, I mean, don't think of game design as an industry where you're just going to sit and design games. What you're doing at its core in game design is you're building a fictional world. You're storytelling. That's always going to be the key part. And you tell your story through multiple uh, elements. Either you design a car, if let's say if it's for a movie like Batman, someone has to design the car, right? And even by design, what their thought is over the period we have had so many Batman movies and so many versions of the Batmobile. That's every person trying to show or tell the story of the Batmobile through their version, right? So storytelling becomes the key part. If you're a good storyteller, if you like working with stories, if you like engaging with fictional uh, depictions of stories, it can be games, it can be movies, then game design is the right industry for you, because that's where I started off with. And started off because of the same thing, because I love telling stories through design by creating things. Uh, like design environments. So this was one of the projects, AI mainframe, which I did. And now you see these renders, everything, each part of it has been created in Blender, textured, and there are a lot of things that cover up. One is just modeling these things. Second is lighting this thing. Then there's also texturing this thing, right? And each of these parts is covered by us. You can specialize in any one of these parts, and you can become a integral part, because any movie or any game that you see, there's not one guy who has designed the whole thing. It's a pipeline, it's a process. And no one person works on the whole thing. You're always part of a bigger ecosystem. So you can choose to focus on anyone. So when it comes to job opportunities, there are massive opportunities, because any part of the pipeline you can kind of fix that. Okay, I want to work on this. And then if it's lighting, you can become an expert in lighting. If it's effects, if it's just texturing, UV mapping, all of it. I primarily focus on shape languages in designing, which is basically someone else can do the lighting, someone else can do the texturing, but what is the visual context? What is the visual content that people will be seeing and experiencing? I love designing that. And yes, this part you've seen already, and this was the part of and this is every single day, just telling a story through a single word. These are the kind of exercises that I put some of the students through. So if you're designing, let's say, just potion bottles, and the word is divine, that prompt word sort of, this was a challenge which I was engaging with students and creating, uh, that how can, just with the bottle, design of a bottle, can you express divinity? With what shape, with what color? If it's royal, if it's venom, if it's minimal, smoke. Now this became a challenge, because someone just presented me like, okay, make a smoke related potion bottle. And the moment you hear that, smoke and potion doesn't go well together, but how do you weave it? So what if it's a bottle or a container which is kind of made of smoke? and liquid is floating inside it. Now that's a part of a story that's telling, that's kind of my fiction world. And me being a storyteller, I have drawn this on paper, on Photoshop, just to communicate that so other people can now relate to what I'm saying. Verbally, I can just put it out there. Oh, what if it's a smoke that is holding onto a liquid? But everyone would interpret it in different ways. So this becomes sort of my way of communicating. So this is 2D digital art. You guys can become, I think most commonly opted career option for everyone becomes this, because 3D has its own merits, but this is where everyone starts off. And then this is a part that we will cover with all the students. And then 3D sort of becomes a more optional thing, that if you're more inclined towards it, then you go with it. Otherwise, this is as close to the hands-on experience that you can get. Something mystic. For the second week, I was just doing daggers. So ornamented dagger, a biopunk, a spiritual dagger, a crystal-based dagger. And it's all of these are just a single word telling a story through a prop. A fire dagger. For a week, then I was just doing thrones. So an ancient throne, cyberpunk throne, floral throne. Now, these can apply to any universe. This can be something for Poison Ivy and that Batman universe. It can be part of a small game in any format. It can be a 2D game. It can be a 2.5D game. It can be a proper 3D game. It can be stylized to it can be hyper realistic. So there are sort of different areas that you can focus in terms of what kind of games you want to develop and how you want to tell your story. So the opportunity is sort of just, uh, you know, it's just your permutation, combination of your skill set that kind of gives you more freedom. And yes, celestial throne, feminine throne, air throne, just a throne somewhere floating in the air, concept around that, a geometric gun, a melted gun, a disconnected gun, right? So yeah, these are just some of the artworks over a period of time what I have worked with, and yeah. So one of the things which I want to say at this point would be we see a lot of things online now, and we get influenced the wrong way. We see most of these artists kind of showing just their finished part, and that's when we don't understand. We think anytime we're creating something, we kind of gauge ourselves with that key, oh, I'm not able to match that level. So what do I do? And that sort of doesn't help young creators, because you need to understand there's a lot of work which has been done before somebody has put something online. Nobody shows that part, right? So don't get overwhelmed would be my biggest advice to all of you. When you're looking at this, now that you've looked at my work, I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed, because it is a process-based thing. And I also started at the same level as anyone else. My sketching was also horrible at a point. I also learned and just kind of built myself. These are all skill sets that can be developed over time, be it in 2D, be it in 3D. So do not get overwhelmed, would be my biggest advice to you guys, just because you've seen something online, or just because you've spoken to any professional through like a webinar like this, or maybe on in a event that's happened in college, right? Yep. Do we have any sort of questions coming in at this point?
Before we open the floor for questions for everyone else, I have a few questions drafted by our game art students as well as the audience from
Yeah.
before. And I have a personal question as well. Not a question, more of an insight. You said something about, if you like sketching, then game art is the industry for you. I myself am not in the game art industry personally, but I'm in the design field, which is a umbrella over it.
Yeah.
I, along with a lot of people as young designers, we hesitate to get into the design industry because, sketching is like a huge part of it, and a lot of people can't really tangibilize, like, materialize their ideas onto paper.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, how do you think we go about that? Like, people just refuse to get into the artistic industry because they can't sketch their ideas?
So the biggest problem there is because we tend to see sketching as a skill, and
Hmm.
that's where the problem lies. Because when you're till the point that you're looking at sketching as a skill, it is going to be overwhelming, and it's always going to put you in that sort of place that, oh, I am not making good, because you always put a mental benchmark that my sketching, if it's not matching this level, that can be something you've seen online. So it just becomes sort of like a block which is difficult to overcome. The easiest way is don't look at sketching as a skill, because we are not looking for the next, or the industry is not looking for the next Leonardo or Michelangelo, that your sketching is going to be so perfect coming right off, from first year of college, that, you know, everyone's going to go, wow, or like, oh, this is amazing. Not going to happen. Sketching is and always is going to be a language, right? Everyone has their way of communicating things. And everyone, if you see blind people, when they communicate, when they are trying to understand, like Braille is their understanding. People who can have are who cannot hear and who cannot speak, sign language is a way for them to communicate. For designers, when you have ideas, if you view sketching just as a language to communicate, then your focus will always be, is the message clear, rather than is this looking as good as something I've seen online, right? So as simply as I can put it, think of sketching as a language, and then you'll understand the gap also. Like I am, like, think about it. If somebody can speak good English and you probably don't have that good English right now, that doesn't mean that, you're illiterate. It only thing it means is you're not fluent in that language. You develop that. I developed the fluency in English by listening to English songs, by watching English movies, by speaking in English with my friends, by singing English songs. Same exact thing. Like, because you see my sketching at a certain point, it's only because I'm fluent in it. I have done the equivalent of watching a movie in sketching. So when you also go through that place, understand the gap, that if you're seeing somebody good, it's only because they're fluent in sketching. They have put the time into learning it. It's just as same as learning a language. It's not at all how artistic, or how you don't have to be MF Hussain or something.
I think, yeah, that's a great way to put it. I wish I heard that before I got into college, actually. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's about, exposing yourself to it's exposing yourself to an environment that enables you to sketch. I myself, like, I'm practicing that now in the third year of college, but yeah, I mean, that's something that I still have to
It's not
learn.
too late. I'm telling you, it's not too late. I made the switch after I finished my fifth year. And
Fifth year.
everyone thought that, okay, because for 5 years of college I was at the top of my batch, I was valedictorian, I got a job in LA to work in a car design studio, and at that point I said, no, I won't design cars. And that was my, I had to convince my parents also at that point. That was almost a decade ago. And yeah, but so even at that point when I made the switch, it's so easy, in especially in entertainment design. You can make switches, you can anytime pivot and change your way. So even if it's sketching, let's say tomorrow you can just think about, I'm not going to sketch, I'm just going to work in 3D. You'll still thrive in this field. You can think, say, oh, I'm not going to work in 3D, I'm only going to work on pen and paper, or maybe I'm only going to work on iPad. That's only going to be my playground. And still you can thrive and become something.
That kind of segues into my next question. People hesitate to sketch, right? And to articulate the ideas, they use AI.
Yeah.
And this is a very like, I mean, this has been asked before, but it's good to get opinions from a lot of people. What do you think about AI taking over our industry slowly and slowly? I mean, people are required to give their inputs, and AI is not sentient. It can't give, emotional
And
responses. But what do you think? Like, slowly but surely, AI is getting better by learning from us. So do you think there's a point where AI is gonna just completely
uh,
remove the need for us as designers?
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Or even if AI develops, I don't think that's going to happen, because the way this has been introduced, this AI language model has been introduced to us. It's a technology. It's limited in many ways. When it came out, it was just you. it was printing out just a paragraphs and words and drafting things for you. Then it became about image models. Then it became video models and anything. It is still learning. It will still develop. Even at its best, it will never kind of substitute a designer. I've worked with AI. I have used AI tools. The only thing which I feel it does is the introduction, the way it has been introduced to the industry. It's crippling the thinking for many, because for us, when I was in college and we didn't have half of the things. I started my college in 2012. We didn't have Instagram that huge at that point, and there were not many online platforms for you to get resources and learn. Even when you were creating something, if you have to think of an idea, we had to come up with the meaning by ourselves. Like if I'm making something soft, we had this exercise in our first year. They gave us a cube and they gave 60 students. Every student was given a different attribute. I was given the word cold. My friend was given the word soft. And the challenge was, make this cube look soft. Make this cube look like your attribute. I like, how do I make a cube look cold? What does cold mean? Right? So I had to think about it and create it. What AI is doing, if the students are using AI too early on, that thinking capability is sort of, not happening. That fundamental is not being built up. That's the only thing which I see as a problem, because, and that's not a problem with the students. It's just the way AI has been introduced into the industry.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's just a very sort of a gimmick kind of a thing, just to build hype around AI. They have been bring this model that, okay, you just punch in a text and it's going to create uh, an image for you. That's just to create hype. That
Hmm.
that is going to blow over soon. Like same thing with NFTs. Everyone thought that's going to stay on for long. NFT and that whole segment had a life of probably a year or two. That's it. I started the NFT project, and by the time I ended the NFT project, the client for whom I was doing that was running in loss, because he built his entire business around NFTs, and NFT just crashed at that point. So all of these are systems are not there to just completely take a creative's job or completely substitute a designer. Designers are going to be here. Only thing it'll do is it'll enhance the gaps that's there. I still have many gaps in my sort of workflow and creating something, and I use AI only to cover up those bits. Like for example, when I have a great idea, I struggle to storytelling is there, the kind of progression I want is there, but the vocabulary sort of just, when I'm trying to explain it, it doesn't match. So those are the gaps that AI fills for me. And now when I'm explaining the concepts and I've used AI for the explanation bit, it filled up that gap. Now that has enhanced me as a designer. Same thing it'll do for people, but it's never going to substitute sketching. It's never going to substitute your thought process.
Yeah, I think that's where the bridge lies. People look at it as a primary tool rather than a secondary tool. We had a similar thing back when cameras were introduced. Painters were out of jobs
Yeah.
until, they used cameras to click pictures and then go home and refine their paintings. So yeah, I think people need to look at it more as a secondary tool rather than a primary one.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many painters, like nobody has seen their, like they just look at the final painting that they have done. Every painter for every painting would spend months doing studies, and he would paint the same thing probably 20, 30 times at least before painting the final thing. And it would studying like small aspects of the painting. So,
Right.
so that thing sort of, if I think we need to uh, find that balance with AI being there. Like let's not substitute, but try and find that balance. That's what is needed right now with AI coming to design and game design.
Hopefully, we find that in the future, all of us. We have a question by Mimansa. They say, could you share your inspirations for design?
Okay. So for inspiration for design, now this is a part of actually the curriculum and part of the course which I teach is, because I was not brought uh, introduced to designing at that point where we had so many inspirations available to us. We had to make our own inspiration. So inspirations are always, it can come from anywhere, but in the end, what inspires your design is always your understanding of what you're trying to design. So if it's about me designing a feminine bottle, first I need to understand what feminine is, what shape language feminine is, right? What sort of visual balance will give a more feminine look. So once I do that study, I come up with insights, and those insights become the inspiration for design. Let me see if I can find an example for that. Um, Sorry, just 1 second. I think I have it over here. Yes. So this is just a kind of a progression which I told the students and how we are going to. Uh, this is for the current second year batch when we did the concept art environment and how do you find inspirations and how do you design. Many thought that right away you're just going to get a brief that make a witch's cabin or a samurai's house or something like that, and you're just going to get into designing, but it doesn't work like that. So just to give a quick context, this is the 5-week progression where we just using traditional skills build up an idea and the inspiration. So over here we write down every single question: who, what, why, when, what is this thing, what's it going to be used. But this is where the inspiration comes in. I can tell you a castle and you can build the castle in 3 different ways. Each of these will be a different shape language, right? But each of these communicate a different sort of emotion. If you look at the rightmost, the one with the triangle, that gives a more evil look, right? The one on the leftmost gives a more warm feeling that, okay, this is a lot to do with the very homely, warmly, good kind people living over here and very rich people living over here. And when you see more blocky volumes, the emotion that this invokes is, okay, these are much more sturdy warrior kind of people or something, very proud people. So shapes uh, play a huge role in terms of what you're trying to communicate. And it can be as simple as making a shape for a house or for any, vehicle prop or any part of uh, the design process. So inspirations will always come down to how you identify with what, what you're designing, what you want to communicate.
Hope that answers the question, Mamansa. If you have any follow-ups, just feel free to write them down. Same goes for all of you. You guys can write your questions down in the chat box. Until then, sir, you've worked in multiple fields, right? And game art as an umbrella, it covers lighting, it covers rendering, it covers 3D art, it covers sketching, a lot of these things. Do you think these skills can be adapted towards a secondary, like a different industry, such as like filmmaking?
Absolutely. So right now, what's happening, the best part for game designers especially, they are at the perfect kind of point in the industry where their skill set is going to be heavily in demand with Unreal Engine and technologies like these kind of coming more into play. Unreal Engine, nobody knew about a game engine. Nobody used a game engine except for gamers when they were designing games. But now with technologies in AR and VR, where 3D environments, metaverse, and all of these things have become so huge. Uh, Being able to, the skill set of a game designer is going to be very much in demand, especially when you're going to be creating experiences, virtual experiences, um, anything you're designing on Unreal Engine, or if you're telling a story or just a simple exhibition, if you're trying to do that, even those will be there. Sorry, is there another? Yeah, I think, did I cover? your question
Pretty
adequately?
much, yes, pretty much, pretty much. I think it's a good insight. Again, all of the whole talk is a good insight in the industry, and I like how it's like a segue, a gateway into different industries as well. Just game art as a topic, as a
Yeah.
subject.
No, because
And
when I was working, so see, I worked as I learned my or developed my skill set as an automobile designer. I had no clue about how to design for movies or games or anything. I got into that because I worked with my mentor who was a concept artist in Hollywood. So if you've seen movies like Godzilla 2 or
mm,
there's Godzilla 2, Source Code, G.I. Joe Retaliation. So in all of these sci-fi films or any fantasy film where they have sort of built this world, um, James Bond, right? And all the gadgets that James Bond uses, all of those things, they don't exist in real life. It's all thought of. It's all somebody has sort of brought that into, existence. So at its core, for movies and animations also, it's storytelling. Whereas in game design, when I shifted, it was the exact same thing that was needed. I didn't have to cover up. I have never ever sat in a. This is what confuses a lot of people. I have never sat in a game design class. I've never attended a course in game design, right? But it's because of my previous experiences through entertainment design and automotive design. I have the same skill set, and I'm teaching in game design because it industry it's all sort of woven into each other, each aspect of industry. If there are some aspects of game design, it can be turned into a movie or an animation very easily, and your skill sets can be applied over there. So you can work not only in game studios, you can work in mobile app studios, helping develop apps. You can also work in animation studios or film production, to actually, let's say, movies like Kalki, and sort of designing for that and helping create physical versions of props that are going to be used by the characters or the actors and when they're going to play. So the kind of common thread is passing through it, and that what game design and entertainment design is.
yeah, yeah. I've had one personal experience here. Me and Ishan. I'm sure you know Ishan, your student in
Yes,
the
Ishan,
class.
yes.
Him and I worked on a speculative design project just last year for our final jury, and it was interesting
Oh,
how
yes, I remember that one, the Musafir project.
yes, that's the one. That's the one. And it
Yes,
was interesting how both of our, even though that these are vastly different fields, right? Although they come under the same umbrella, how they come together and form something to make something that actually, it works. It
yes.
just works.
I think that was the best part, that we had different people working from different designs on a same brief, where he brought in his skill set of designing the world. You brought in your expertise in visual communication and communicated that whole brand. And, it just made sense. What he was designing, if it did not have the branding that you came up with, the kind of choice of fonts and colors and shapes uh, that will be present in that, like, it just made sense. It um, kind of welded and made your concept very strong. And that was the best part about it. Just, I think that worked because you were in different disciplines and not just working in a single discipline, not having a, linear thought process.
Uh, uh, we have a question by Mimansa over here. Is there some place where we can see your works displayed? I'm sure you have a website as well as an Instagram,
Yes, I
right?
can put it, and I can. Yes, and you'll find the link to my socials as well. I share, there's a lot of sketch work that I keep on doing, a lot of digital work that I do as well, which is also a part of it. And yeah, so we have, I think, one more question.
By Woody, yes. Do UX and UI designers also work in game design?
Okay. Okay, that's another very broad topic, and I'll try to, I have a lot of thoughts about that, but I'll try to keep it very concise. So UI UX was a term that got sort of 4 or 5 years back. It got the hype. And the reason that happened was UI and UX designer became the gap between designers, pure designers, and the corporate people working designing strategies. Because whatever the corporate people were doing in their, uh, you know, all the research and the study and the analysis, creating infographics and doing all of those things, it was contained just till paper and presentations. The moment UI UX designers came into play, they bridged the gap between the pure designing and pure corporate work, which was making those insights experiential, not just you'll sit and listen or just read off a page, but something that you can engage with and experience. And that's where user experience and user interaction became a huge deal. But at the moment, the current trajectory for that is limiting to UI UX designers in corporates, helping just develop apps and working on platforms. I hope that in it soon finds the true definition of what a UI UX designer is, not just sticking to that, because in game design, in entertainment, there is huge opportunities for it. It's just that a lot of people, logistically, you can say that people are not opting for it right now. And it's just a general perception that is formed that UI UX designers are just working to develop apps or just work on services rather than actual experiences. Um, but yes, they can also work in game design when you're working on any game. Let's say if it's a GTA style game, the whole thought process of where the map is going to be, and every time you walk up to someone, there's a pop-up or the character you're talking to. So these are all small interactions that are happening. UI UX designers think about that, the interface. When you I think if you see the farming simulation game, which is becoming a huge thing now, even Farmville was quite huge. So even over there, the whole sort of like if this is a screen, so there are sort of icons placed throughout the screen which make you do something. That's the work of a UI designer, where they are kind of understanding from a user's point of view when I'm using which part of the screen is sort of going to help if I have a couple of controls over here or I have the map over here, and playing according, like designing using that sort of visual psychology and perception of the audience. So yes, there are lots and lots of things, lots of work for UI UX designers in game design as well.
Hope that answers your question, Vidhi. So a few last couple of questions for you,
Yeah.
unless we have more coming in from the audience. A question that arises a lot is that game art or game designers, they need to rely a lot on external job opportunities because the gaming scene in India is not very well established. Like you don't have a lot of AAA studios in India, right? So
Yeah.
people usually aim for what Activision, Rockstar, and these are primarily based in the EU or the Americas. What do you think contributes to this gap? And do you think it's like, do they have to go outside or can they be a part of indie game studios? Like they are making some pretty big moves over here.
I'll be very honest. Indie game studios are doing very well. We just don't read about it. But if you
Hmm.
see most of the indie games, you go to any big AAA studio right now, Blizzard Entertainment or any other, they are struggling because their hype usually comes up from one or two games that they do. Like GTA became the whole thing where Rockstar Games sort of blew up. And that's all what was there. And right now, what AAA studios are doing is, again, the same mentality. They want to make more money, so all of their AAA games are sort of becoming more in-app purchases, and that sort of just so that they can keep the user engaged and investing more money rather than just buy the game, right? And so that's where the whole industry sort of changed, and right now it's coming back, which is a good thing because there are so many design studios, indie design studios coming up in India that might not be working on the same scale as the AAA studios. The pay might not be the same, but in terms of the next 5 years, India is definitely going to be one of those hubs where most of this work will happen. When I started this work, I wanted to bridge the same gap between design fiction, and most of the people that I worked with, everyone advises me that you're 5 years too early into doing this. That's why I got into academics, because you have to start the conversation somewhere. Nobody was talking about it. That's because the design culture is based on a very primitive version of education of design. NID and NIFT and all these places which are huge in India, uh, right? They set the tone, and what they have a single philosophy which is mostly working with the proof of concept. Their meaning of design is very rigid and it's not very flexible. Now with changing times, I think that meaning needs to change, and how we deliver design education needs to change, which is happening slowly and slowly, especially with institutes like JS, um, and where that understanding of what designing is and what it should be is developing. So we are seeing more students and more creatives, young creatives opting to not go for the AAA studios, but start their own studios, right? And don't think about it like you have to, uh, like that's sort of another mentality. I would say it's an Indian thing where the families and so on, condition us over a period of time that you have to work at a good studio. Trust me, you don't have to, right? That should not be your end goal. Your end goal should always be about becoming a good designer. And it can be working as an independent. It can be a couple of 5, 6 people just coming together, forming their own studio and working and designing a game, right? This is one of those places where you don't really like to start off another business. You need a huge capital and other things. You can start off a really good indie studio with minimal capital. All you need is effort over here.
Yeah, the indie studio, what you said about the indie studios not, coming to us is
Yes.
definitely right. They're not covered in any of the medias, let alone, colleges and all.
And it's
Which is why,
just what we said
events
about
like
going outside. Oh, sorry to cut you, but the same thing
exactly.
which you mentioned that most studios are outside and students prefer to go there. That's also just a part of a fascination, and it's just a culture and trend thingy which is going on that most of the young creatives they want to go and study outside because they think that guarantees a good sort of a thing. It's not at all that. It's just a general perception. We think if I work outside, it's better. I have seen the opportunities that are there. I have gotten great opportunities, but I still choose to be here because in India, the amount of work that you can do, the amount of learning that can happen, it's unparalleled. India is at a very good place, and in the gaming industry especially is going to blow up over here.
Yeah, I saw that personally, but the indie game show that we hosted recently in college,
Okay.
we had about 20, 30 odd studios. And these studios is a big term. I think it was just two or three people working together to make a game, and the output was absolutely astonishing. It
Yeah.
was it wasn't anything like GTA 5 level, but they were getting there slowly but surely. And mind you, this was a team of two or three people. And it's like what you said, it makes sense now. It does.
Yes.
So this is the last question going to be, it's going to be coming from my end. If you have any other questions, feel free to write them in the text box. So this is a question from myself and Ishan. Why the design futurist? That's your title. Why
Yes.
is the design futurist something that you resonate with?
So yes, design futurist, not many people know what that is. Not many people misunderstand the meaning. When I was working in college, I was always working on conceptual projects. I was not designing for today. I was designing for 5 years, 10 years ahead. And I loved designing not for, production design, not like what I saw in automotive design, really talented people. For 6 months, they're not doing anything. For 6 months, they're just working on a simple headlight. That's not the kind of work what I want to do. I want to create ideas. I want to create trends that people follow. And that's the kind of work which I wanted to do, that, something that uh, sparks another person's imagination when they hear about my work or they see what I'm working at. So my plans were big. I went with that. And it has been like my course started making more sense after COVID, because COVID happened, and whatever happened, nobody planned for it. No, there were so many businesses that got shut down because they never thought something like this is possible. They did not know how to go through this, or they did not even strategize according to that. And that's where sort of my course, where we kind of look at all the different possibilities, 5 years, 10 years down the lane, of this can happen, that can happen. And if that happens, how do the designing change then? Or how do design change? So designing for tomorrow has always been my interest. Sadly, because of NID and all of these design colleges and the 70s ka methodology of designing with proof of concept is still very hard over here, that we don't see a lot of students working on conceptual work. Outside, the best part which I like in MIT Media Labs, if you see some of their work in MIT college in US, uh, students are working on so many hypothetical projects, and this is actually a thing. So many innovations that are happening now are happening on the science fiction work that was done before. So most of these FaceTime and all of this that you see, these were first introduced in cartoons. Animators, creators, they have come up with these ideas and people liked it in cartoons, and then they saw, oh, I want to have something like this. I want, and people started designing about it. When Star Wars came up, Star Wars was talking about, warp drive and all of that, which is totally conceptual, but it was an idea. Today we have scientists working on that idea. So I see people need to think about a good distinction, which is engineers execute, right? Uh, Designers, we design all of these experiences. A futurist comes above it, where we design and we do that, but there needs to be someone who visualizes it, someone who at least starts that chain of thought. And starting that chain of thought was my interest, and that's why I became a design futurist. And most of what I work is, especially with my clients that I work, it's working on aspects that sort of are very thought provoking, and which kind of start a whole another chain of conversation about, okay, designing, if it happens in this way, if it follows this trend, then there are 10 more ways we can design things. So that's what I prefer to do.
So speculate and create. I think that's a motto that a lot of us need to adopt. Be it any field, be it game design, be it filmmaking, be it visual communication. It's something that's going to help us all and hopefully get to the level that you are at. Uh,
I
but
mean, don't compare it to that, because there's always, you know, it when you do think of it that way, it just becomes a very overwhelming feeling. So, but just always think about creating, becoming more fluent. That's what I would say. Just try and become more fluent in whatever your language is, be it game, animation, uh, or anything. So I'm just trying to be more fluent in futurism. That's all.
I think that's the takeaway that all of us need to have over here in this call, at least. That's more of like the thought of the day for this call. So I think that's it. So if
Yeah.
there's anything
Thank you
else
so
that you want to
much.
add?
No, that's it. I mean, if there are any more questions from the students, I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, of course. If anyone else has any questions, please again feel free to add them in the chat
And
box.
don't feel shy, please. I know I've been at that level. I also used to feel shy asking questions.